Oh, my hair's so out of control. I just want this lockdown to end so I can get a bloody haircut. You know that I love the Criterion Collection. And what I want to do in this video, I want to focus on some titles within the collection that I believe are underrated. And I think they deserve more attention than they currently get. These are films that are not by the big auteur directors of cinema. It's not Kurosawa, it's not Tarkovsky, Bergman, Godard. These are films by directors that maybe don't get enough attention or that are kind of overlooked in the history of cinema. I'm going to run through 10 titles, and all 10 of these are available both in the US and in the UK on Criterion. So hopefully as many people as possible will look at these films and go, yes, I want to go out and buy this right now, because that's my aim with this video, I guess. The first of these underrated Criterion discs I want to share with you is The Fisher King, directed by Terry Gilliam. Now, Terry Gilliam is actually quite a well-known director. He's made some amazing films, and some of these are already represented within the Criterion Collection. Films like Brazil, Time Bandits, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. But I think The Fisher King is one that actually gets overlooked quite often. And on some days, depending on when you ask me, I might actually say this is his greatest film. And it has two great central performances from Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams. The story follows Robin Williams' character, who is a homeless man who is on the search for the Holy Grail, and he believes it's in New York, of all places. What I love about the film is it follows story structure of classic mythological tales and psychological story structures. It's really interesting if you're into filmmaking and writing and story structure. This is a great one to look into, because I think it can provide a lot of insight into how to structure a hero's journey. So yeah, not much more to say. It's just a great film, and one that I think is overlooked within the Criterion Collection. My next overlooked film within the Criterion Collection is Hedwig and the Angry Inch. This is one that I hadn't seen up until recently, but I absolutely loved it. It's this great rock opera musical with so many great songs about this such enigmatic, unclassifiable central character. I won't say much more than that, but the film is so funny and so touching and warming, and I just love the film so much. It's very colourful, costumes are amazing, set design amazing. It's all from the vision of John Cameron Mitchell, who is the writer, the director, and stars as Hedwig. So it's just a great film, and one that I think doesn't get enough attention within the Criterion Collection. Next up for you folks, I've got Something Wild from Jonathan Demme. Now, Jonathan Demme is a tremendous director. He's sorely missed by so many filmmakers and film lovers around the world. He of course made the great The Silence of the Lambs, and he's probably most remembered for that, and maybe for his Talking Heads Stop Making Sense concert film. But this one, Something Wild, is one I truly love, and I've seen it a few times now. It's just a classic story of someone who leads a very normal, boring, mundane life, who meets this character and just gets thrown into this whole new world of craziness and crime and being on the run, and it's almost like a road trip in a way. And Melanie Griffith's character in this film, she's tremendous and so off the wall and kooky and zany. I love this film so much, and I think it's one that is truly overlooked, not just in the Criterion Collection, but just in terms of modern cinema. I think it's a classic. So yeah, Something Wild, check it out. This next one I'm going to talk about, I know there are many fans of this film actually on this channel. I know a lot of you guys who I've spoken to in the comments love this film. I love this film as well, but I still believe that it doesn't have enough fans, because it's not by a really famous filmmaker that everyone knows, and it doesn't really feature on too many like great lists of world cinema or Japanese cinema. The film I'm talking about is Tanpopo from Yuzo Itami. What a tremendous film. It just goes off and does its own thing. You can't really guess where it's going to go. It's often billed as a Western because it follows almost to the T the structure of a classical American Western, of this enigmatic hero figure coming into a situation that needs fixing and needs putting right. and it's all set around the idea of ramen noodle cooking. It's one of those films that makes food its subject, and the preparation of food and the love that goes into making food is shown in this film like it's exemplary. I love this film, and it's funny, wacky, you can't guess where it's going, so I would totally recommend this to anyone, and I think this needs more fans. So if you're a fan of Tanpopo, let me know in the comments below, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you are out there. A brief interruption to our usual programming. If you're liking this video, please do consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like on this video, because it would really help me and help the channel grow, and I could get these kind of videos out to more people and we could meet more fans of the Criterion Collection. Anyway, back to my underrated picks from the collection. This next film is the oldest film featured on this list. It's from 1930. The film is King of Jazz. And this was a total blind buy. I had no clue what this film was, but I love it. It kind of bills itself as a history of jazz in America. And obviously in 1930 was kind of early in the history of jazz. And many people take issue with this film because pretty much every character in this is white, and obviously jazz has its roots in black African American culture. So in terms of it being a great historical representation of jazz and the history of jazz, it's not that, but it is very entertaining and the musical numbers are great. There's a lot of really good witty comedy in this, which I thought I thought there would be no comedy in this, but what they actually have in this made me laugh a lot. The Technicolor display on here is beautiful, and it's crazy for the time because this was a time when almost every film was black and white, but this is a visual spectacle. You've probably never heard about it because I never had, but it's so great that Criterion have offered this to us. They've displayed it. There's lots of special features. I love this film and I think it's an underrated gem. This film is one from a filmmaker that I've talked about a lot on the channel. I love this filmmaker. It is John Waters' Multiple Maniacs. This was actually my introduction to John Waters and I was blown away. It's this quirky, independent film made on pretty much no budget. John Waters got together whoever he could and just made this film. And it's kind of unclassifiable, indescribable. It's kind of a monster movie, it's an exploitation movie, it's violent, it's disgusting. It stars Divine, this character that's larger than life. I mentioned it's a monster movie, and yes, there is a giant lobster in this film, but really the monster is Divine, just this giant character who commands the screen, makes everyone their bitch. It's crazy. I often draw comparisons between John Waters and John Cassavetes because of what they were both doing in terms of low budget independent cinema in America. John Waters, though, focuses on exploitation and violence and shock value, whereas of course Cassavetes was more humanistic, typical emotional drama. But anyway, John Waters, this is a great entry point and it's underrated. Even within John Waters' canon, I think John Waters' films like Polyester and Pink Flamingos get a lot more talked about than Multiple Maniacs. So yeah, underrated. Another underrated gem, My Man Godfrey. This is a screwball classic of American cinema from the 1930s, but I think it is overshadowed by the great screwball comedies of Howard Hawks and Preston Sturges and George Cukor. You know, I'm talking about films like The Philadelphia Story. This is one that doesn't get talked about enough, but I think it is amazing. It's very witty. The story is great. The characters, the family in this is just both unlikable, but also you can't take your eyes off them. If you're a fan of My Man Godfrey, we need to talk because I do not meet enough fans of this film. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you're a fan of this film because I love it and I think it's an underrated Criterion gem. This next film could be the most underrated and underappreciated film of the bunch. It is The In-Laws from Arthur Hiller, starring Peter Falk and Alan Arkin. This film is such a hilarious comedy. It's pretty much set up as a meet the parents kind of story, but then it totally goes crazy off the wall into this strange plot. And these actors are amazing. If you've seen Peter Falk or Alan Arkin in anything before, you know how great they are. Peter Falk, who of course played Columbo, and if you've not seen Columbo, what are you doing with your life? He's great in this. Alan Arkin is great. I'll just say, with this story, go in blind. I mean, look, they're blindfolded on here. Just go in blind, and I think you will have an amazing time with this one. This next one might be a bit contentious because some people will probably say this film isn't underrated. The film is Black Orpheus from Marcel Camus. The reason people would probably say it's not underrated is because it won some very big awards when it came out. It won the Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars, and it won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. So those are like the two greatest awards for a foreign language film. Now, why do I think it's underrated? Well, even though it won those awards, no one really talks about this. I've had very few conversations about this film with people, but I think it is exemplary. It transposes the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice from ancient Greece to modern day Brazil. And it's set among these Brazilian festivals. There's this great bossa nova soundtrack. And I think this film is responsible for making bossa nova as a musical genre more proliferated throughout the United States. So for that reason, it's a great historical, cultural artifact, but also it's a tremendous film. Beautiful colours, amazing music. This film will just make you love life and just want to keep on living. I want more people to watch this, and I want more people to talk about it. So, Black Orpheus, underrated, really underrated. And the last film on this list, again, is one that people might say is not underrated because it is actually by one of the great filmmakers of world cinema. I mentioned at the top of this video that I wasn't going to talk about films from the likes of Bergman, Tarkovsky, etc. However, this filmmaker is undoubtedly one of the best filmmakers of all time. The film is The Music Room from Satyajit Ray. Now, Satyajit Ray is probably the most famous Indian filmmaker of all time, and he made so many great world cinema classics like the Apu trilogy, Charulata, The Big City, all of these amazing films. But I think The Music Room is underrated, and it's available in the US and the UK, and I just don't hear people talking about this film. Yeah, people talk about the Apu trilogy all the time when they talk about Ray's films, but The Music Room really doesn't get much of a look in, and I want that to change. It's a film really about the passage of time and how times change, and when they do, you have to move with them, you have to adapt. I will guarantee that you'll like this one. So yeah, The Music Room for your consideration. So there you go, 10 underrated Criterion Collection films that you can buy no matter whether you're in the US or the UK. So go forth, buy these films and enjoy, and let me know if you do end up enjoying these. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you did, please consider subscribing to the channel, please drop a like and get involved with the comments because we'd love to get some conversations about these films going. I'll be back with more videos very soon on the Criterion Collection and world cinema and film collecting as a whole. I'll see you then, but if you want to stick around on the channel, by all means, click whatever video is going to appear on the screen right now and you can just explore some more of the recommendations that I've given on this channel. Anyway, until then, keep watching great movies.